Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
It's all yours,
Are we
my
all
friend.
set? All right, great.
Yeah.
Has everybody seen my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, as we typically do, we'll do a quick touch on schedule. So we're about a quarter to a third of the way through the design phase now. Obviously, a ways to go when we consider the remaining design and then all the construction. But we're making great progress. We wrapped up the schematic design phase at the end of April, and we met with the core planning team a couple weeks ago to review both the schematic design progress set, so kind of do a page turn of where we sit today from a documentation standpoint, as well as review the budget, which I'll hit on again in a minute. So we've entered the design development phase. We're starting to layer in more detail, continue to engage with users, and start to engage more heavily with our engineering consultants. We've also continued staff engagement. So we've met with the primary center subcommittee, which includes the primary center and ELC staff member representatives from the different groups and departments and grade levels. So they've continued to provide important feedback. We've now had multiple user group meetings with kindergarten, special ed, kitchen food service, and math intervention, reading specialists, and music. So they've provided more specific feedback on their individual spaces or rooms. And we are scheduling additional user groups moving forward. We've got one tomorrow afternoon and a couple coming up next week as well. And then last week, Monday, we had a all staff presentation for the primary center and ELC staff and offered an opportunity for anyone from the district staff who was interested to learn more of an overall update on the design progress so far. We went through the plans, the site plan, and the preliminary conceptual exterior view that you saw at the last board update. So it's been great to get everybody's input on the process and the design as we've held those staff engagement opportunities. From a budget standpoint, we have a number of checkpoints built into the design schedule. So at the end of schematic design, at the end of design development, and at the 50% construction documents benchmark. At the schematic design phase, we updated the primary center addition and renovation budget to reflect the current scope of the project. So balancing the addition and the renovation scope as it sits today, we've updated based on what we're seeing in the market currently. And we also included the relocation of the JV baseball field, which was not in the original referendum budget. And currently we are on target with the overall referendum budget as well as the associated individual project budgets. As we get into the additional projects at the middle school, the IC roof replacement and the masonry repair at the high school, we'll be able to provide additional budget information at the end of the design development phase on those projects as well. But we're in a really good spot from a budget perspective. We're on schedule. So things are on target there thus far. As far as design update, not a whole lot has changed from a macro perspective to the floor plans relative to what you saw at the last board update in April. We've been adding more layers of detail as we've met with user groups. So in kindergarten, for instance, we've gotten feedback on specifics related to the casework, the storage, how the room is configured from a technology, whiteboard, tackboard standpoint, as well as similar feedback for many of the other spaces. So I have all the floor plans for reference in case there are any questions. One area that we have dialogued a fair amount about is the conversion of the existing gym into the cafeteria and kitchen. And so we've had a couple of meetings, including your food service director, Michelle Dank, and others to get input, including our consultant. And we landed on probably needing a bit more space than we were showing in our original concept. And so we explored a number of options for how we configure the toilet rooms as part of the cafeteria conversion and where those were located, and landed on this as an updated plan. This obviously doesn't have any detail yet for the kitchen and servery itself, but it was more of a test fit on getting the amount of square footage we think we'll need to meet the goals of a modest production kitchen at the elementary, while still meeting our seating count for the cafeteria and providing, in this case now, 4 individual toilet rooms. So it's similar to what you have currently at the primary center, where you have 2 individual toilet rooms in the lower level cafeteria. Here we'll be providing 4, along with some hand washing opportunities off the corridor, and what we think will end up being a pretty nice flow down this corridor through the servery, back out into the cafeteria, with the opportunity to stop and wash hands on the way to lunch. The rest of the flow, the size of the doors and everything will be determined as we get a little further into the design. And our consultant is currently working on a layout based on the goals that were established in our first food service user group meeting, as well as some of our subsequent conversations with the core planning team and with Michelle. We will be adding windows along the west, so we'll be bringing in daylight as well as borrowed light, kind of in alignment with where there were formerly window openings. So kind of a unique opportunity to take advantage of and kind of restore some of those previous openings in the renovation. And then from an exterior design development standpoint, you saw this this image the last time that I presented. And so we've continued to develop the exterior design. I'm going to show a handful of views of the exterior here in what we call white mode. So we don't have any materials applied yet, but it'll hopefully give you an idea of how the building's developing. I apologize. One of my colleagues just left the office and forgot his keys. Would you give me 30 seconds to go let him in, and I will be right back? Sorry.
You got it.
Thank you.
That's hilarious.
Lucky he's still there.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. Hopefully that was less than 30 seconds. Sorry about that. So I've got a handful of 3D views. So this is basically that same view, but with a little bit more detail in the model. You can also see kind of how the site is starting to lay out, although it's still kind of based on our conceptual architectural site plan. Our engineers are currently working on drawing that up, taking into account more of the existing site conditions. But you can see some of the elements that we talked about the last time, as far as creating a nice canopy for waiting and for entering the building. We've got the kind of suggestion of some planters, and built-in bench opportunities, both from the standpoint of students waiting for rides or parents waiting to pick up their children, as well as through the lens of safety and security. And then you can kind of see how the massing is starting to formulate with a nice glassy 2-story entry leading to the 2-story commons area, kind of connecting existing to new. These windows up here will bring daylight into more of the center of the building, so we'll be able to get a lot of daylight deep into the space. And then you can see the rhythm of what we're suggesting will likely be a brick masonry on the lower and some type of metal panel with our punched window openings relating to the design language of the existing building. The next view, we're going to spin around and be kind of on the end here, looking down the entryway under the canopy. Oh, sorry, forgot. So this is just a view at a slightly different angle of the entry from the pickup drop-off drive. Now we're looking down underneath that canopy, so you can kind of see the benches kind of sheltered on the backside of these seat walls, some potential for plantings out front, and then that kind of trellis and canopy leading to our main entry vestibule. Just a slightly zoomed in view. So here you can see, the vestibule here, a lot of visibility into the office. So the office staff should have good views of people both approaching the building and as they enter the vestibule. And then what the potential for those seats here, somewhat similar to the entry and canopy at the high school. But like I said, opportunities for parents to wait for kids or kids to wait for rides in a protected environment. Now we're going to jump to the end of the addition. So here you can see where we were a moment ago. So now we're basically on the end of the kindergarten wing. We're still working through balancing window locations into classrooms where we obviously want to maximize opportunities for daylight, with teachers wanting plenty of wall space for pinning up work or other things for students to have as resources. We'll have a set of doors here at the end of that wing for ease of access, both from the playground and for exiting for pickup at the end of the day. The site is really just kind of a placeholder right now. So we'll have more sidewalks. We'll have a fence kind of coming off of here to enclose the playground. So a lot of details to add as we progress the site design. Now we've spun all the way around to the existing entry. So that's right here. You can see your current vestibule and canopy, and then the curved piece of the existing art room. So this gives the perspective of how the gym will sit relative to the existing building. And then we've got our east-facing entry point or access, which will come out to the playground, which will kind of be in this zone here. We're still working through exactly what the windows into the gym look like, but we'll definitely have daylight, and we're looking to maximize what will be the north side of the gym. So that will be nice, even north-facing light. It'll be diffused, and we won't have to worry about as much direct sunlight or glare within the gym. You can get a sense for how far away we are from the building, and I'll zoom in into this area in just a second. And then you can see on the second floor, so this is one of our large group instruction rooms just off of the connector that leads down to the kindergarten wing. So now we've zoomed in on that entry or exit, however you want to look at it, the access from the building to the playground. Here you can see the existing windows into the library, some of those existing second floor windows. So basically this corner here is our joint between the addition on the left and the existing building on the right. Similarly, you can see how we're trying to tie in some of our punched window opening language with the existing building, as well as some of the architectural elements that relate to the current entry, vestibule, and canopy. So wanting the building, when we're all done, to feel very tied together and have the addition really complement and tie into the both existing historic building as well as the addition that was added previously. As far as next steps, we'll be taking the 3D images from white mode and starting to get material samples and apply actual, brick matches and explore metal panel color options. So take those to the next level. We've got in a few weeks our preliminary interior design and finish presentation with the core planning team. So starting to look at what types of interior finishes, flooring, paint, ceilings, wall panels we'll be planning for the addition and the renovations. And then in a subsequent meeting, we'll get down to the actual patterns and colors and specific products that we're planning or proposing. We're continuing, like I mentioned, to engage with engineers and consultants. So getting more detailed information. We've got a couple of conversations planned for our next CPT meeting related to the geothermal HVAC system and getting into some details on that, as well as looking at the JV baseball field relocation and exactly what we need to include to make that successful. I had mentioned before, we've got additional user group meetings scheduled, and then we're working on scheduling a meeting with the village likely in early to mid-June, once we have a civil engineer drawn site plan to review with them.